Real quick before the video begins, first off, I want to say that this video is sponsored by HeroSync. They are, of course, from the creators of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization website. They wanted to work with me on some videos and stuff too. Not a paid sponsorship, but of course, I will be given early access to playing the game and stuff too. So I wanted to include that at the beginning of this video. So be sure to check out the game. I have a link to everything, Discord and everything too. And also in this video, I'm going to talk to Dan, which is one of the creators of the game. So we're going to try to explain how the game works and everything. And of course, you guys have any questions, let them know on their Discord. And hopefully this answers a lot of things too. And real quick too, because I feel like somebody might wonder this does not mean I'm quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything like that too. When this game is out, I would like to play it, maybe do a few videos on it too, but obviously I've opened up so many packs to Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not quitting anytime soon. So nothing's going to change in this channel on that. Just in case somebody might be concerned, yeah, I bought too many cards to quit now, and yeah, I don't plan to stop that addiction anytime soon. So don't worry about that, and I hope you enjoy the video. What's up everyone, this is Cyberknight, and today we are going to make a video over HeroSync. It's a new card game that the organization is working on, and yeah, I'm here talking with Dan from the organization. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Dan Parker. Most of you who know me as the owner of yugi-organization.com or perhaps yugipedia.com, but lately we've founded a new company called Rejected Studios to develop a new game called HeroSync.
Alright, and of course I am asking him a few questions about the game, and yeah, this is something that they've been working on for quite a while. How long have you been working on this?
So I first had the idea for it as far back as 2011, but we got to the point where we were actually testing the cards against each other back in 2016 in August.
Sounds pretty cool. What is the game like? How does it work, and how is it different from other card games?
So it's a digital card game first and foremost, similar to something like Hearthstone or Dueling Network or Dueling Book if you've used stuff like that. We've been developing it using automation similar to programs that some of your viewers have used like DevPro and so on, because we don't want there to be things like ruling questions. If you want to know what a card does, simply play it and it will resolve and answer that question for you. We also wanted to make sure that our business model would work, and it doesn't with a physical card game. The biggest difference between our game and others is that when you register an account, it will come with 3 of every single card in the game. And every time a new set comes out, your account will update with 3 of every card in that set completely for free.
Okay. So it's kind of like, well, I know probably not the best comparison, but like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, whenever new cards are out, or even Dueling Network or Dueling Book, I guess nowadays, it just updates, so you have everything.
Yep. So I actually was one of the head administrators of Dueling Network right up until the day that it closed, and I've noticed just the positive response that players had from that, the monetization models that Dueling Network had, and there was a lot to it that we can incorporate in our game. But ultimately, the fact that everyone just had all the cards meant that players who didn't just have thousands of dollars to throw at the game, but were better than everyone else, were actually given a chance to demonstrate that and got to like the tops of those leaderboards and stuff. And that's something that we wanted to grasp on. Our goal with this game is to be an esport, not a hobby.
It sounds like a better way of doing it too, because I know that's always a big problem. I mean, with me doing a lot of opening stuff, I always have viewers out there saying, you know, they have a hard time with their budgets and getting things. So being able to do that sounds like a way like smarter idea on how to do it. And again, it will show people on skill versus how much they can throw into the game. So I like that idea.
Yeah, we're also hoping to reward that skill. Obviously, since we're not charging for packs, there's 2 pretty significant differences that come with that. The first one being necessarily have to power creep, because the new cards that come out don't have to sell. We don't need to sell you on packs. We also don't need to create a set with, say, 100 cards in it and make 85 of them mediocre to garbage so that you have to buy more and more packs trying to get those 15 good cards. We can just make the 15 good cards. And that alone would cut down on development costs pretty tremendously. But then there's also, how do you make money then? Obviously, is a question a lot of people will have. And there is obviously just the cosmetic model that don't actually enhance your likelihood of winning at all, but you can have the characters that are playable and the artworks of your cards and the sleeves on your deck and stuff will all be customizable through purchasable cosmetics. There's also something that's going to be called a ranked play license. Ranked play licenses are something that you can purchase to participate in the ranked ladder and earn prizes. If you do not purchase one, you may still play ranked games and see what your rating would have been, but you will not be able to win anything unless you actually bought the license that enters you into the pool. The prizes include things like exclusive cosmetics again, let's say perhaps top 10 season 2 2019 for an example, but there's also going to be cash prizing, which is going to come from the money gained from the ranked play licenses, a significant portion of it.
Okay, because I was wondering, I was going to ask you that next on monetization, because I know, obviously, you know, a lot of people don't realize that, but you got to figure out a way to keep things going and servers running and all that. So I didn't know if you were going to go with an ad model or... So it sounds like cosmetic, though, is the route you are going with.
Yep. Company Riot Games, they've got a game, League of Legends, that is purely cosmetic. Everything about that game was free, and they've just on skins for heroes alone managed to be one of the biggest games in the world. Another similar model, this time to the ranked play license, would be a game like RuneScape, where that's free to play, but there's a lot of premium rewarding content behind a paywall that you pay monthly for. Our ranked play seasons will not be a single month, but they will be 2 to 3. And at the end of each season will be when a new product comes out, which would therefore change the format, and your rating would no longer accurately represent how well you are with the current card pool. So the ratings would reset, the new cards would come out, and the prizes would be given out. The biggest prizes being cash, of course, and then the rewarding cosmetics that cannot be purchased in-game in any way. You have to earn those by winning enough games.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a better way of doing it, too. I've played League of Legends in the past. I haven't in a while. I play a lot of Smite now, too, which is kind of the same idea. So I've had enough rage-filled time playing both of those. So I like that kind of setup, though, way better. That way it doesn't mess with the game. And cosmetics are cosmetics, so it doesn't hurt. You know, if you have the money to spend, cool. If you don't, whatever. You know, it's either way.
We also have a plan to run tournaments with alternative formats. Everyone has to play the same character, or certain cards have to be included in every deck, stuff like this, so that you have a way of earning prizes in a shorter term. You don't have to wait until the end of an entire season. Or if you're newer to the game and the season's halfway over, you don't have to wait till the start of another one to have a chance to actually win those prizes. We're planning on running official tournaments, and then we're also planning on sanctioning community members to be able to run them themselves as well, and providing the infrastructure for them to do so on the game as well.
On the game too, of course, I read through what y'all had on the website and everything as well. It was talking about how HeroSync is about different heroes. That's supposedly how the card game works, which is it honestly kind of even reminded me of something like Overwatch. So I was kind of wondering, what was your inspiration? What gave you the idea? Because we have so many card games these days with so many different ways of playing. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic and all that. So I was wondering, how did you come up with the idea? And how are these heroes going to work and stuff, too?
So for me to answer that question would take 2 videos worth of time, but I'll try and keep it brief. I remember thinking to myself, too many games are decided by luck, and too much of that luck is coming from what cards you're drawing, which makes sense. It's a card game. And you'll notice in the game you play, Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's an awful lot of consistency lately. Big part, a peak of that was Burning Abyss, where you could run 27 cards in your deck that effectively all said the exact same thing. And if you didn't make Dante on the first turn of the duel, something horrible happened. But I don't like that games were being decided too much by like opening hands and by luck. And similarly, in other games like Magic the Gathering, it was coming down to luck on things like drawing mana, lands that you could play to make certain plays. So I wanted to have almost like a second deck of cards, a second pool of effects that you could resolve that were guarantees. So it was a deck that instead of drawing a card from, you would pick a card from and add it to your hand at the start of each turn. That's where like this idea like started originally. Imagine if you just had like 10 cards in a separate deck, and one of them said make your opponent discard a card, one of them said draw a card, one of them said gain 1,000 life, one of them said inflict 1,000 damage. Each one of these cards could be used once a duel. That was like where the idea first started from. You'd pick one of those each turn and just use it, and your opponent would get the same 10 cards. And from there came, how would these be implemented? And that's where the idea for the heroes came from. So I wanted you to have a hero you could play as, and that hero would have these abilities that they would be able to just use, similar to just like a video game, really, where you have like a special attack you could use. League of Legends characters have different attacks, Overwatch characters. I believe Hearthstone, you actually play as a hero who has one ability that you can pay a couple mana and use. And from there came, how would I diversify that so it's not just a omnipresent one card in play, which is what your hero is, your character, I guess they're called, in Hearthstone. So from there came the idea of this level up system, and that evolved into the game HeroSync. We wanted to base the lore on the gameplay rather than the gameplay on the lore. That was a big thing for us. We want it to be a game first. Player experience has always been priority number one. It's how I've run Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization, for example. You'll notice we've never had like a pop-up ad or any audio playing ones and stuff, because even though they pay significantly more money, it hinders the experience of people visiting the site so much that like I would make 3 times as much money, but from half the size of the audience. And I don't want that. I would rather more people have something that they could enjoy. And we're taking that same philosophy into the game with us. So the game design came first. Ultimately, like the name HeroSync came from where the lore took us, which was a way of explaining why our hero could level up and learn these new abilities in, say, my first game against you, but then as soon as I play a game against your friend, I'm level 1 again and I don't have those abilities anymore. How would that make sense? And it's because of the lore of the game, which is that there are actually 2 worlds, Earth and the world in which HeroSync takes place, and the people on Earth are playing a simulation, a consciousness dive game, where their consciousness syncs with that of the hero they're playing as. And the longer the game is going on, the stronger that sync becomes, their HeroSync, as it's so called. By the end of the game, your level will be 4, maxed out, and you will have all of these new abilities at your disposal, in addition to your regular deck that you play with.
That sounds really cool. It kind of, it does remind me of something like League or Smite, like a MOBA kind of thing, where, each game, like you can use the same character over and over, but each game's different. It depends how you play it. You can, you can choose to level up certain abilities different and all that too. Or even a little bit, on that last part, even reminds me of Card Fight in a way where they show in the anime how your Vanguard is like your person or your character that they're supposed to be. So I like that idea. That's something that even, again, I'm just thinking of all these different things that I can see, or I feel like where you got inspiration, and I think it's cool. It even reminds me of like Yu-Gi-Oh! With Deck Masters, because I always remember thinking that would be cool. I don't know if you remember that season of the anime.
So I definitely remember Deck Masters, but I've never seen the Card Fight anime, so that's pretty cool. Another similar, I've had conversations with people about this before. It reminds them of, they said, Assassin's Creed, where someone in the future is like syncing their mind with a guy in the past.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that kind of goes with it. So I really like that idea. And also, too, going back to the advertisement thing, I just want to say, coming from someone that does Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos, thank you for not having the voice ads, the audio ads or whatever, because that's one reason I can't use, like, the Wikipedia, Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia, not your version of it, but the other one, because they always have those Febreze commercials and different things, and you can't talk about the new card and hear about how great Febreze is at the same time. So I just want to say thank you on that, because that comes in handy, for sure.
It's not a problem. It's why we founded Yugipedia in the first place. Fandom was getting worse and worse with those ads, and they were also stealing content, even from you, actually. They stole one of your videos on the Legendary Dragons, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason I'm using your version of it, too. I know, going off subject, but yeah, in case people don't know about that, that's the reason I use y'all's as well, because, yeah, the audio ads, if that's not annoying enough, and then also stealing content, not the best. But getting back to your game, though, because that's what we're talking about here. Another thing I wanted to ask, because I know you haven't revealed a ton about how the game works. Supposedly, we're going to hear about that soon. But I was wondering, on the heroes, I don't know how many you plan on revealing, so you can tell me on that here in a second. But are certain heroes going to be like meta and have different abilities? Like this one is a more defensive strategy, this one's more offense, or are they more of a blank like slate and just depends how you play them to how they're going to work?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that one. So again, with our primary focus being on player experience, there's ultimately, and this hasn't been revealed yet, but I'll give your viewers a little exclusive here, I guess. Each hero has 10 abilities unique to them, and they start at level 1 with their one ability that is core to who they are as a character. So we've revealed so far one named Becca. She is a defender of the people. She's all about low-level guys beating higher-level guys. So, for example, her level 1 ability would be if you attack an opponent who has a higher level than you, their level 2 card and your level 1 card, your attack would increase to potentially at least be stronger than their monster. And that would just be the core idea behind that character. At level 2, there's 3 more abilities. You'd choose 1 from those 3. At level 3, you would choose again from a pool of 3. And at level 4, you get a final pool of 3 to choose from. And each turn, you get to use the full list of your choices. So on turn 4, you'd get to use your level 3 one again. On turn 4, you'd get to use your level 2 one a third time. And you'd get to use that level 4 ability a fourth time, assuming it was a once per turn effect. In the case of Becca, hers is actually a passive ability that applies every single time. There's active abilities, sync rewards is what we're calling them, which are similar to like once per turn effects in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then passive ones, which are continuously applying at all times. So you could, in one game, just pick, we'll say, the far left ability of the 3 the whole way up. And then the next time you play, just go straight up the middle, and the next time straight up the right. And you'd be playing 3 completely different characters, even though they're all Becca. The far left path could be a bigger focus on your level 1 guys. The middle path could be a focus on controlling lots of followers, which are what we're calling the monsters in our game. And the far right path could be about having guys stay in play for a long time, keeping your guys alive. So 3 completely different ways of playing the same kind of deck, whether you're using weenies to beat up the big dudes or keeping weenies alive or controlling lots of weenies. Ultimately, that is the goal of Becca, the defender of the people, the Golden Knight. There's then a second hero that we revealed just over this weekend that went by named Conquest. He's one of the 4 Riders of the End, and his level 1 talent allows you to add a Rider of the End card from your deck to your hand instead of drawing every turn. He doesn't have a normal draw in his deck. Every turn he's searching for one of his followers and putting them into play. So it's a completely different dynamic. And some of the level 4 abilities of one hero could completely counter another hero. But if that's not the level 4 ability sync reward that you had in mind when building your deck, then you might have to choose between countering their strategy or sticking to your own. And that's where a lot of the different dynamics and meta choices can come from. Another significant thing that will impact the meta of this game is that at the start of the game, before you draw your opening hand, you're allowed to choose one card from your deck and add it to your hand, no matter what, any card. So of the 5 cards in your opening hand, only 4 of them are going to be drawn, and it's after you've chosen a card, and you make that choice after you see what your opponent's hero is and know if you're going first or second. So there's a lot that goes into that choice. To pick a Yu-Gi-Oh example, you could just automatically start every game with the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere mode in your hand, and a deck like the current Danger Thunder Dragon deck would not be possible to exist because everyone would have Sphere mode every single time. So there's a lot of self-governing that the meta can do. The player base could all jump on Sphere mode for a little while, and then after that, other decks that Sphere Mode is useless against are now given quite an advantage because their opponent's starting with a 4-card hand, and the card they're missing is the most powerful one they'd have access to, the one they get to choose. As far as certain heroes being more meta than the others, we definitely want all of the starting heroes to be able to beat each of the other starting heroes. There's no specific one we have in mind to be the best one or the worst one. And a large, large reason for that is that the community will be dictating the future of the game. Because of the lore of these people on Earth syncing their consciousness with a specific hero during an epic battle they once had, such as Conquest battling Becca at the Battle of such and such. That took place on April 1st, 1604 or something. You could then synchronize with another battle, but this one's 20 years later. And that's what the new set releases are going to be. When a season ends and a new set comes out, so will a new hero, and the existing ones will have slight changes. The ones that did the best in the previous season, maybe they're wearing slightly shinier gear. They've made a little bit of money from all their success. The heroes that did the worst in the season will die and be rotated out and won't be playable in the ranked play anymore. We do plan to have an open expansion where everything will always be playable. You don't have to worry about that. But based on how the community latches on to certain characters and certain decks perform, the worst ones will actually be the characters who are eliminated from the story, and new ones will join and take their steed. Certain characters like Becca will appear as old women instead of young, as a lot of time has passed. And it's also definitely possible that we go back further in time to before some of these were born and before deceased ones have died, and bring older decks back.
I really like that idea. That's pretty cool, because with Yu-Gi-Oh, that's always something I've said in a lot of my videos, is that they have like this little bit of lore, as you know. I always see you guys talking about that on the website and everything too. And I hate how sometimes like they, like check this out. You remember, like, I think it was Avram that did that for the lore, and sometimes they don't want to talk about certain lore. And I like how, it seems like you are trying to do more with that, and even the idea of certain characters growing up, maybe learning from their past battles, and that way people can also kind of bond with these characters in a way too. And I know people like to do that with any card game. You always have your favorite or your favorite card, so being able to do that sounds really cool. And you can even learn the history, and maybe there's some backstory, and I like that idea. So I think it's really neat you are trying to do that. And to go along with that, because it sounds like with different seasons, it's almost like different formats, of course, as the game evolves. Will you have sort of a legacy format thing that's going, like how we have GOAT format for Yu-Gi-Oh, where people that want to use some of the older ones with our older ban list? Is that kind of a thought right now, or is that something that maybe just kind of you'll see about in the future kind of thing?
So there's absolutely a plan, as I answered in the last question, to have like an open format where all cards are legal regardless. Even if we get to the point where we have 100 heroes that we've cycled through, all 100 will be legal in that format with all of their cards. There won't be a rated ladder for that, like ranked play, because it's way too much to balance and would more than, at some points, even quadruple development time. And if we do find that we have to make an errata to an older card's text because it's interacting with new cards in an unpredictable way, or even if there was just like a typo or something, then unfortunately that change would be what's applying in the older format. So if you did latch on to a first hero such as Becca, who got cycled out, and 9 months later, one of the cards that hasn't cycled out that was in your old Becca deck gets like a slight change, and you were still playing that old format so that you could keep playing Becca the last 9 months, that card would still change on you. But other than that, you would absolutely be able to just continue to play to your heart's content. Those specific tournaments that I'd mentioned earlier that do have prizing, those are going to be done by community members as well, that we will certify and sanction. We're going to have programs in which they are evaluated and trained and given the assistance they need to make sure that those are running smoothly. But how they run them ultimately will be up to them. So even if Becca had been rotated out for 7 years, should HeroSync hopefully last that long, then those tournament organizers could absolutely have like a Becca tournament where everyone has to play Becca, even though she hasn't been legal for like 6 years or something. I'm also thinking pretty hard on how to bring some of them back. it may come to a point where we decide to turn the clock back and bring Becca back to the game, but her cards aren't as good as some of the newer things. We're not intending on having significant power creep, but it's still an inevitability that some newer stuff will just invalidate a hero. And if Becca rotated out, we're not going to worry too much about how good or bad Becca would be against the new hero. She's not going to be a factor in the tournament scene anyway. So if it's found that Becca's not good enough anymore, and if we brought her back, she would just be the worst hero in the game anyway, we would look at retooling her cards and build that into the lore as she wasn't actually dead. She just fled and while away learned some new strategies and improved, and she's back with a vengeance. And all of the cards that are specific to her now have higher attack powers than they used to, or their effects are a little better, just to keep her up with the rest of the meta. So some of your old favorites may actually come back a little better than they used to be. Imagine if in Yu-Gi-Oh! They decided to unban Substitute and then also gave him an extra 1,000 attack while they were at it.
I could see them doing that these days. I mean, well, what they did to Chaos Emperor, I'm still not over that one. But I think that's a good way of being able to do that. And of course, too, it's all trial and error. I'm sure too. Like as people will come to know on a lot of this too, as you guys, as the game goes and everything, I'm sure you're going to take feedback and be able to, decide, what you should do. Should you power this up and all that too? So yeah, I think that as the game evolves, I'm looking forward to seeing how this is all going to change, especially when you're talking about the lore and stuff too, because that's something I've always had a complaint with on Yu-Gi-Oh! And like I said, just everything really on different card games. A lot just do not look into that. So I think that's really cool how you're doing that, and it'll be interesting to see how these characters evolve and change throughout years, hopefully years, like you were saying too. I hope it goes really well. Yeah, how is deck building going to work? Is it, I assume it's more based on you pick out your hero, and then of course you gotta, I guess you would go with whatever side of the skill tree, I guess is what I'll call it, for what strategy you want to go with. So is it more like that, or just how is it going to work? I guess I'll have you explain it.
So the first and most important thing to know is that there's actually two pools of cards. The generic pool that every hero can use, and then a pool of cards unique to each hero. So that's going to dramatically impact the potential threats that you'd be facing. A big reason why this matters is that none of the drives or counters are in the generic pool. For Yu-Gi-Oh! Viewers, a drive is similar to a normal spell card, and a counter is similar to a trap card. So when you're going against, to use the same examples as before, Becca, and they have a card face down, they've set a trap card, it's one of 3 cards in the entire game because there's no generic counters, and Becca only has 3 counters in her card pool. An unrevealed hero has a level 1 sync reward that says you don't ever lose influence for sacrificing a follower. So a follower is our warriors, our monsters, whatever you'd like to call them, and influence is what we call life points. So if you have, for example, a generic card that says when this card is sacrificed, you lose 20 influence, in that particular hero's deck, you would not lose that 20 influence because of his level 1 ability. So that card is ever so slightly better in that hero than it is in the other 4. Telling you now that there's 5 heroes in the launch pool. There you go. Exclusive reveal. So the other thing would be the levels. Not just the heroes, but the cards each have a level. So your hand will have a whole bunch of different levels in it depending on how you build your deck, but it's the level of your hero dictates which cards in your hand you can play. If your hero is level 3, you can play level 3, 2, or 1 cards, but you can't play your level 4 cards yet. You have to actually achieve that level to be able to play them. We don't have anything in the way of mana in this game whatsoever. So once you're level 4, which is the highest level, every card in your hand can be played that turn. It's not like you have 4 to spend or anything. You literally, If you have 5 drives in your hand, spell cards, and they were all, and you're level 4, so it doesn't matter what level they are, you could play all 5 of them that turn. Wouldn't matter. At no cost to you, just play your cards. There is a limit to the number of followers that you can control at one time, which is 3. So there is some bottleneck on playing the card, but that's about it. We don't even have phases where Yu-Gi-Oh won't let you normal summon during the battle phase. We don't have that. If you want to play a follower and attack with it, then play another follower, then attack with that one, play a drive or two, prepare a counter, it's the same as setting a trap, and then play another follower and attack with that one as well. By all means, it's all you. You just have your turn in which to do what you want to do. And then they have their turn in which they want to do they're going to do what they want to do. The player who goes first does not draw on their first turn, and they can't attack on their first turn. But then after that, every turn begins with a draw and has playing cards, attacking, and ending their turn. It's when the non-starting player, which I'll just refer to as player 2 from now on, it's when player 2 ends their turn that both players simultaneously level up and simultaneously choose a level 2 sync reward. If your opponent picks before you do, their choice will remain hidden until you've made your choice, so you can't try and counterpick them or anything. As well as that card that you add on turn 1, you don't get to see what their card is and they don't get to see what yours is. So there's no trying to snipe or counter that particular interaction. The biggest thing, and this has been asked a lot in the Discord server, but your viewers, a lot of them haven't seen this yet, obviously, is how does that not make going first a tremendous advantage? You'd be the first one allowed to play your level 2 cards, your level 3s, and your level 4s, which gets into a lot of game design questions about mana and curving, but to give you a quick answer is that counters can be prepared, placed face down on the field, regardless of your level. They just can't be activated until you are a sufficient level. So let's say I'm player 2 and I have a level 2 counter in my hand. You play your first turn and end. I'm playing my first turn. I can prepare that counter. I can place it face down on the field and pass my turn. And we both level up to 2 now. So on your turn, when you're playing level 2 followers to try and attack me with, I actually have a level 2 counter I'm legally allowed to activate and interact with those cards with. So I have level 2 cards to defend me with on your level 2 turn. And that's something that is very unique, I feel, to HeroSync, where in a lot of other games, such as, we'll say, Magic the Gathering, if you played your 5th turn and put a 5th mana into play and spent all your mana the entire game, you've spent 15 to try and kill me with, and I've only gotten to spend 10 to defend myself with. And when it comes to my turn and I now have 15 to try and kill you with, you've had 15 to defend yourself with. So that advantage will always exist for the player going first and only for the player going first. And it will actually get worse every turn, 21 over 15, 28 over 21, and so forth. And the player going second will only ever be playing catch-up. And that's something you'll find in Hearthstone, Dragon Ball Super. It doesn't matter. Any game that uses mana is going to have something like that in it. We wanted to get away from that, but to completely abandon it like Yu-Gi-Oh did results in infinite loops and FTKs and floodgates being mandatory in design and all this other stuff. And you're not having fun unless you're playing. Like, people play card games to play cards. Imagine that, right? So to have a floodgate that says you can't play cards is horrible. And ultimately, that's even what phases are. The battle phase is a floodgate that says you can't play monsters. Whether you realize it or not, that's ultimately what it is. And then the main phases are a floodgate that says you can't declare attacks. So we did away with that. Just let people play the game.
Yeah, and I imagine, too, that will be better for beginners, because I know that can be a problem from when I've taught people how to play the game, that sometimes they forget, okay, in this phase I can only do this, and, and they forget maybe that, I should have summoned this, and now I'm in the battle phase, so I'm in a mess. So I think that kind of strategy, that kind of rules and setting up the game sounds like a better way to get more people into it, because it won't be as confusing, and you can kind of think about it as you go kind of thing. So I think that will work out very well. Let's see, on setting some of those cards, the counters, I believe, is that what you called them, that were, I guess, kind of like trap cards, as you said. When you set them, is it like Yu-Gi-Oh, where then you have to wait before you can activate them? You can't, like, set and then instantly activate, or...
So a prepared counter is prepared. It can be triggered at any time. There's no wait. However, you'll find it's incredibly difficult to set and activate one in the same turn, to prepare and activate one in the same turn. Sorry, my Yu-Gi-Oh brain at the same time there. So unlike in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you have something like the trap card compulsory evacuation device, once you've set that and passed your turn, you just use it whenever you want, except I guess the damage step, because that's a very player-friendly thing to put in your game. There is no open-ended activations on our counters. Every single one of them says when blank happens, you can activate it if you choose to and respond in kind, whether it's when they declare an attack, redirect it to a different follower, or when they summon a follower, return it to their hand, which would be useless to just put it back down, but just stuff like that. Every counter in our game has a specific requirement in which to activate it. So if I was going to prepare a counter that responds to you declaring an attack on me, it'd be awfully hard to use that the same turn. You can't attack me on my own turn. So it's extraordinarily difficult to do, but should your opponent themselves have a counter that says, like, revive a fallen follower, and you just set a counter that responds to a follower being revived, then yeah, you'd be able to use that one the turn that you prepared it.
And also, let's see, and I don't know if this is planning yet, so I might be going a little bit ahead, but you were talking about how you're trying not to have it so the person that goes first doesn't have an advantage. Where there are going to be some different heroes or decks out there that are going to be more like, I don't know, for the best example I can think of, because I feel like I have to kind of always use Yu-Gi-Oh as an example, obviously, because that's my audience. Are there going to be certain decks out there like Cyber Dragons where they actually excel at going second? So are there going to be sort of counters to that sort of thing where, you know, certain decks just work better, or heroes going second instead of first?
So absolutely. There is heroes who, those level 1 abilities that they have, the level 1 sync rewards, they're way better going first than they are going second. In fact, it's so dramatic on some of them that I've given them a second level 1 reward to choose when they're going second, because their ability only works when they go first. And there's no point in giving them that. There's also cards for it. I've been really, really hesitant to reveal any specific cards or what they do, but I feel like anyone who's watched this much of your video, and especially just as thanks for you providing me with it, I will reveal the first effect of a card for this game. It says, when you level up, you may sacrifice this follower to add a card from your deck to your hand with the same level you just achieved. So if you're going first and you add this card to your hand as like as I said, you get to start with any card you want. If you just went first and added this card and played it and passed your turn, on your opponent's turn, they're just going to kill it. It's not going to do anything. It's not a very good card. Whereas if you're going second, if you're player 2 and you add this card, and then on your turn, play it and pass your turn, you'll level up instantaneously. It will then therefore be able to sacrifice itself and add any level 2 from your deck to your hand that you want. If you waited until your second or even third turn to do that, you'd be able to sacrifice it and add any level 3 or 4 from your deck to your hand. And that's pretty powerful. What it's doing essentially is delaying that turn 1 add until the 4th turn to give you more information on what you should be adding, while simultaneously limiting it to a specific level of card. So if the card, like, oh, it's turn 4 and the card I definitely wanted to add was that level 1 card, too bad, it's not going to happen. You're limited now to a level 3 or 4, depending on which turn it was. But that would be the con of it. The pro is that, yeah, you have more information and get to add any level 4 you want based on the new information you've achieved. And that kind of thing is something that technically you could get away with going first if you could have the thing survive a turn. But going second, it doesn't have to. You just play it and pass your turn and you'll level up immediately and get to use its ability. So
I want to give you a chance to talk about, I know you're doing like a pre-Kickstarter and then of course a Kickstarter. And also too, I'm going to say this at the beginning of the video, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it right here too. I am going to be part of the they're doing, of course, working with content creators. I'm trying to word this correctly, but they are nice enough, the people at HeroSync are nice enough to work with me, and I plan on trying out this game when it comes out, and maybe even live streaming if my internet can do it, and I'll at least have videos and stuff too. So I want to make sure you guys know that. Sponsored in that way, but not paid, just so everyone knows on all that stuff too, and I'll say it at the beginning. But I want to give you a chance too to also talk about the pre-Kickstarter, and then what your plans are for Kickstarter, even if you can talk about different rewards and different things too, because again, I don't know where you are on certain things on it. I know there are certain things you're probably still planning and trying to set up, so tell us what you can or what you know so far.
So, as you had mentioned, we are doing 2 fundraiser phases. Phase 1 is this pre-Kickstarter we're currently doing, and then phase 2 is Kickstarter. The reason for that is that Kickstarter takes an awful lot of the money that you raise. There's certain taxes are done differently at much higher rates because the money is earned as income simultaneously. There's PayPal's payment processing fees that are significantly higher. And then, of course, literally Kickstarter's cut, which is just a raw 5% of anything we raise. And then there's also the fact that Kickstarter itself is a very visual experience for people. People are going to want to see and be able to engage with an awful lot of content. And we want to make sure that the Kickstarter we present is as good as the game it's representing. And we can't do that as of yet, as I've been self-funding and getting an awful lot of volunteer work for the game that we currently have. So I can give you, for example, a couple pictures here that you can place on the video anywhere on the screen that you would like of some of the heroes that we've had artwork done for, but it's not all of them. And that's part of what the Kickstarter is trying to raise money for. Art is very expensive, and so are like servers, and we want to make sure that they'll be able to run for at least the first year, even if the game didn't make a cent, stuff like that. And because of that, we're going to have a relatively high Kickstarter goal. It's going to be over $100,000. However, for all the money that we can raise during this phase 1 funding, that final target will go down. And that's the other crux of Kickstarter is if it doesn't raise the full amount, let's say 150,000, then the whole project fails and none of the money raised. If it got to 140 out of 150, we don't even get that 140. The whole project just closes. So we want to make sure that we have that target as low as we can get it. So we've done this phase 1 Kickstarter where all this money that we're raising now, all of it is going towards the game. None of it's going towards Kickstarter and lawyers and all this other stuff. And it's going to, 1, lower that final target to make it a more achievable goal, and 2, make it so that the Kickstarter we do present will have more content in it for you to engage with, finished artworks of cards and heroes and battlegrounds and music you can listen to and stuff like this. We do have a couple sample songs already done. I've had the lovely Brian Kahanik has helped me with that. He was a Neversoft musician employee back during the Guitar Hero days, for those who remember those games. And I've had some incredible help from many artists and the testers and just friends of mine and favors I've had to call in over just years of meeting people, whether it was at E3 or when I was a professional Guitar Hero player back in 2010 and all these other things. But ultimately, it's the money that we raise now that will determine how successful the Kickstarter itself will be. So we're doing this phase 1 Kickstarter, and to help incentivize people to donate to this one, we've done things like moving the alpha and beta access to much cheaper tiers. You can get in on the beta for only $25 right now, as opposed to it costing as high as $75 when the actual Kickstarter launches. And the alpha even is down at $45 right now instead of the planned $150. So just little things like that. I also just personally, I know people are interested in that Fantastical Dragon Phantasme card, the Thanos Dragon. I've myself have a few of those and don't have any need for them, so I'm actually just going to randomly give those away to anyone who backs at this period. We're also, even at the $10 tier, allowing people to reserve a username in the order that they back, so you can get dibs on, in your case, Cyberknight, for example, and that would just be yours when the game actually launches, and then just the actual Kickstarter backer rewards for each tier. So like cosmetic tokens, so you can have any cosmetic on release of the game for free. You just pick one that's in the $10 tier. I'm just taking a look at it here because I don't want to leave anything out on anyone. You get a playset of alternate art promo cards included with that beta at 25. The alpha also comes with an additional hero skin token. So you'd be able to get any cosmetic you want and a skin for any hero you wanted. The $55 tier is giving you access to a unique set of sleeves that would be exclusive to people who actually backed this Phase 1 Kickstarter, in fact. 75 was the one for like swag. People were interested more in physical things like T-shirts, posters, soundtracks, stuff like that. And then we had 3 elite tiers. So no matter what group you backed, you were going to be given access to a blue username on our Discord server and a secret chat on it where reveals are posted early as thanks for being a backer. If you donated at least 100, you would get a green username instead and be an elite backer. And that backer group would also be reflected in the final game as well. You'd be remembered as an elite backer for the entire lifespan of HeroSync. You'd get unique sleeves, 3 hero skin tokens, alpha access, all of this stuff. At 125, we are also giving a month of the ranked play tournament license. So you'd be allowed to enter any tournaments for free for that month. And you'd also get a tournament play license for that season. The nameplate you'd also have in-game would be blue for life. That's something unique to that particular backing tier. And then at 150, we have our Hype Train one, which would give you Hype Train sleeves, a second Kickstarter exclusive skin for a hero, and also early streaming permission, where when we actually have the stream software set up, it's a stretch goal on the final Kickstarter because it's not essential to launching the game, but it is something we want. There's going to be a streamer mode in the final game in which you will be able to broadcast your screen, but the contents of your hand will be hidden to the viewers, but not to you, so that you don't have to show the whole world your hand and people can't just stream snipe you and stuff like this, as well as a few other Twitch-friendly changes in streamer mode. And anyone who actually backed at the Hype Train tier would be given, I guess we'll call it beta access to the stream mode. The final thing to note is that anyone who backs during Phase 1 is given 10% off in-game purchases for life. Whether it's cosmetics, ranked play licenses, tournament entries, it doesn't matter. They would always have 10% off applied to their account.
All that sounds really good. I really love that idea on being able to hide your hand, because that's, I know, a big problem. I'm, like I said before, I'm not somebody that live streams that often. I'm trying to get internet that's a little better so I can, but I do hear about that is a big problem for people in, well, just any game. I mean, I've heard about with Fortnite and other things too, that of course people can figure out where you are and all that. So already thinking of that stuff is really great too. And also, so people know, again, I'll probably put all this at the beginning, but they are allowing me to be part of the, what is it, the 150 tier? Is that correct? Okay. So, yeah, I want to make sure people know all that because, again, I want to make sure everything is up front, obviously, and yeah, so it all sounds really great. Of course, I'll have all the info so you guys can see it on the website. I'll probably even edit in so you guys can just see all the tiers as he's going through them and all that, too. Is there any other, like, I guess this is kind of the shout-out portion, so you want to go ahead and talk about the Discord and all that?
So, I definitely feel, especially to people who have watched this much of the video, you should definitely join the Discord server. It's not just an FAQ server about the game, which is what it's currently serving as, but once the game's fully launched, that server is going to stick around, and it's always going to stick around. It's going to be the official HeroSync Discord server for life. and you have a chance to, get in on the ground floor on that. But it's also just a place where we are very eager to answer any further questions you guys have. Whether it's, you heard me say like the term influence, I explained that was life points, but there may have been a term I didn't explain. I apologize, firstly. But there's also just, you can ask, will this kind of effect exist? We'll be happy to answer that kind of thing for you. Also, I just wanted to personally give a shout out and thanks so much to everyone who's helped me make the game so far, all of those developers and testers and coders and artists and composers who have worked tirelessly for no pay so far at all for years just to make what we have so far, which is a finished card pool, balanced, completely designed and ready to go. The only thing we need is the art and the aesthetic programming. For example, the game right now, when we've been playing the cards, they've had stick men for artwork, and it's been very blocky. There's no animations. It's all very two-dimensional and not at all presentable. So we're hoping to, make it look as good as, say, Hearthstone, or certainly a lot better than Dueling Network ever did. And all these people who have just put in so much work, Noah, Dylan, you guys, you know who you are. And I don't want to list names because if I forget even one, it would just be such a disservice to that person. And of course, to your viewers and the viewers of Yugi Organization, I would be probably working in a call center or something right now if it wasn't for just the viewers, the audience. Yugi Organization has been such an opportunity for me. And to have the, spare time because of working on Yugi Organization full-time from home the way I do, it's allowed a game like this to exist. I had the idea in 2011, but nowhere near the connections, resources, or time to get it anywhere close to this far. So thank you, all of you, for viewing the site, for telling your friends about it, and for watching this video, and for choosing this channel over others that either ignore us or spin what we say, or, God forbid, tell you not to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there's a few of those that are like, hey, this product sucks, don't get it. And why do you have a YouTube channel on Yu-Gi-Oh! If you hate Yu-Gi-Oh! So much, right? But
I strongly agree with that one, especially. I see that a lot, unfortunately, which it's always good to give honest opinions, don't get me wrong. If you think a product is bad or whatever, and you want to give your opinion, 100% agree on that. But yeah, there are some that I'm like, why do you do a YouTube channel then if you don't like the game? But whatever. I mean, you're always going to find those people, unfortunately. So I want to thank you for doing this video with me as well. I can't wait to see where this game's going to go. I can't wait to, of course, try it out for myself. Of course, everything will be down in the description. We'll have a link to the Discord on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization's website. That, of course, if you hadn't seen the article already, that will be on there. And, of course, any other links that you will want me to have on there, too, I will definitely have. So we'll have everything lined up and organized so you guys can check out if you have any questions. And, of course, too, as you said earlier, too, there's probably some things we didn't mention in this because, I mean, we've gone on now for a pretty good while, and it's like with any card game, you can't really just go through a rule book basically and make a video out of that. So if you have any questions, check out the Discord. If you misunderstood anything or whatever, or you want to give, I'm sure, any suggestions or opinions, I'm sure they will definitely welcome any of that stuff too.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Caleb. You're an amazing guy. More people should subscribe to you. Anyone watching this who isn't, click that button and the bell. Do it.
Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like. Again, check out all the info down in the description. And yeah, subscribe. It definitely helps out a ton. And ring that bell. And of course, I will catch you guys later. See ya.